Hello, everyone, and good afternoon. Well, depending on where you are, good evening. I'm joining in here from Lagos, Nigeria, where it is 6 p.m. So I wonder where you're joining in from. I'll be doing introductions in a while, but if you are joining us, please, please put in your name and where you are joining us from, the country you are in, or the city that you are in. And please let us know your name and feel free to ask any questions you that come to you as we're having this conversation. My name is Dr. Glory Edozian, and I am part of the team that creates the top 100 career women list that's created by 95 Chick. My mission is to help African women across the world build visibility and be known for the great work that they do. And today with me, I have some very, very, very awesome women. Two for now, but we have one more person that's going to be joining us very soon. Firstly, before I even start the introductions, I have to thank our partner and sponsor for this webinar, United Capital, for supporting us on this journey of making sure that African women are visible. And to that end, we also have to thank one of our top guests today, who is none other than Odiri Ogini. She's the Chief Executive Officer for United Capital Asset Management Limited, Nigeria. She's very accomplished corporate executive with over 18 years in finance, renowned for her strategic leadership. She has numerous accolades, including being one of the top 100 career women in Nigeria. She was featured in the Nigerian's Women's Annual Top 100 Leading Women of 2022, has been recognized as one of the top 50 women in management in Africa. And under her stewardship, United Capital Asset Management has been honored as one of the fastest growing investment manager companies in 2022 by International Finance. Oh my goodness, that's just amazing. Odiri, it's so exciting to have you here with us.
Thank you very much, Glory, and good evening, everyone. It's really good to be here. Really good to be here. Thank you for having me.
Fantastic, fantastic. And then my next guest is Olola Vieira. I hope Vira. Did I get that correctly? I'm sure you'll correct me if I didn't. She's the country representative, rather, for Global Green Growth Institute, Cote d'Ivoire. She's a seasoned expert in policy analysis, climate change, and entrepreneurship. And in her past roles, she has managed international partnerships for multi-grid solutions in Benin and has advised the president of Benin on the 16 billion Government Action Plan 2016-2021. She has collaborated with UNEP, UNDP, OECD, and ECOWAS on missions addressing water scarcity, environmental issues, and energy access. In 2024, she was recognized by 95 Chick as one of the top 100 career women in Africa. Olola, you're very, very welcome.
Thank you, Glory, for having me. It's really an honor, first of all, to be recognized this year. And I'm really grateful to also be here and share with you a few thoughts.
Fantastic, fantastic. So, as you can see, guys, we have very accomplished women here with us. If you are just joining the conversation, welcome. This is the Top 100 Career Women in Africa webinar. Please put your name and the country you're joining in the chat. Also, feel free to share any questions that you may have. So my first question, I'll start with Olola. Olola, you have such, your career, just reading out portions of your bio sounds super interesting. I just wonder, what is your story? When you reflect on your career, what is your story on getting to the top? I mean, advising the president, working with all these international partners, and really making change across Africa. What is your story?
Well, I mean, I think in a nutshell, I pretty much starting with a background in business administration. And I would like to say that I started my career early at the age of 19, working already while I was completing my degree. And I actually started with small activities, working in the private sector in system information consultancy, actually, at the beginning, so in the private sector. And then at some point, I wanted to work a bit further and have more sense of purpose, right? And working for global causes and more linked to population and having impact. So I decided to restart some of my early learnings with another degree, and then afterwards I've been able to join public administration and also international organization. Um, while doing that activities, it helped me enter into network of activities related to energy topics, water topics. So I've built on my knowledge around that those issues that I thought and I still think are crucial for development of our countries in Africa. And so by building that knowledge, it enabled me to join some of the engagement that were looking for expertise to support those. While doing my professional activities, I've also been able to join professional networks as I am part of what we call Project Management Institute since now a bit more than 12 years, which is a network of project management professionals. And from there, I've also been able to, confront my knowledge into managing programs, being more confident into engaging on delivering actions and impact. And that side activities has also been enabled me to pursue my career. So I've been able to navigate now in different continents, from growing up in Africa, studying in North America, then working in Europe, and back to Africa in 2016. And for me, the experience that I had at the highest level of the country was very transcendent in a way that it was really a learning and also a growth to be able to contribute to our own, your own country was a learning. And now today I'm able to apply that at a more international level, working with the Global Green Growth Institute on also crucial calls on climate change. So so in a nutshell, it's been my professional journey, along my personal journey also as a mother and also a wife with 2 kids. So as you know, as a woman in career, we also need to balance work priority and personal priorities. So yes, it's been interesting and challenging at some point, but always looking forward to have that positive engagement for work, but also making sure that there is a proper time for family construction.
Amazing, Olola. Thank you for that really great summary. I think it's so interesting to hear how, because sometimes you look at people and you see the finished product, but it was good to hear your story of how, going into different professional networks, doing different roles, your studies, and how that's accumulated to where you are today. And I'm sure as we carry on with this webinar, we'll talk about the challenges of balancing family expectations, the role of networks and career growth as well. So thanks for sharing that, Olola. Odiri, I'm going to come to you, and I think just for perspective, I'm going to ask you the same question. And it's really, what is your story to leadership? I mean, to be spearheading a company that has been awarded one of the fastest growing investment management firms in Nigeria is amazing. So what is your story of leadership?
All right, thank you very much, Glory, and good evening, everyone, once again. So in sharing my story, let me just give a brief background to, how I started my career. I started with Deloitte, an audit firm. I read accounting in school, started with Deloitte, worked for about 2 years with Deloitte. I was bored to a large extent because I was basically doing the same thing, and I felt I needed more challenge. So I got a financial control job in an investment firm. For me, it was my first exposure to working in an investment banking environment, coming from, an accounting background. So getting into the investment banking space, one of the things I noticed were people were writing CFA. So I got acquainted with the qualification CFA, and as an accountant, I felt, okay, I can write this exam. I remember somebody asking me, you're an accountant, why are you writing CFA? And I said, it is for perception. So when people say, oh, she's an accountant with a CFA, it makes a lot of difference, when someone says she's just an accountant. So I was like the only person not in the core finance role, writing CFA. And eventually after 8 years, I got my charter, and
Wow.
over time, I'd worked in finance role. From being the financial controller for a boutique investment bank, I became, financial controller for a group of companies in the financial services industry that had just investment banking, asset management, securities trading, trust business, and other financial services within a particular group. And eventually, after about 11 years, I became the group CFO of a company, and a publicly listed company. And so for me, that was really my first exposure to leadership, because
Wow.
up to then, I felt I had a covering. I had, somebody you're reporting to who is more visible just to the board and also to the market. So being the group CFO of a public company was my first exposure. And I remember, because you're a public company, they have to send your name to the regulators and things like that. And then my first feature on, I think it was Nairametrics or one of these news agency, in the newspaper, I saw my name, Odiri Ogini, appointed as group CFO of United Capital PLC. I felt, wow, this is, this looks good, but this is scary, because at the same time, when you're dealing with numbers, anything happen is the same. This is Odiri Ogini, so I think that was my first exposure that I realized that, I needed, now that I'm getting into leadership and I'm becoming more visible, I needed to deal with it or manage it. And I recall my first exposure really was with 9 to 5 Chick in 2017, for one of your events. So I worked as group CFO for about 18 months, about 15 months. And then I was appointed as CEO for the asset management business. And I recall that one of the comments that was made was that she has a CFA, let her go and do the job. And it just reminds me that, when somebody said, oh, you're an accountant, why are you writing CFA? And then years down the line, somebody is saying you have a CFA, go and do the job. So what that tells me is that, continuous learning, irrespective of where you find yourself, it doesn't necessarily have to be in that same line. So, and the truth is that my leadership story, in my career would not be complete without, emphasizing the fact that, without that CFA designation, I would have given this opportunity at the age I was given. I was 34 when I was appointed, at that age, because my predecessor, the person who left that role, was in his 50s. Every other person on that job had been in their 50s. So it was for me a great opportunity, to get into that, visible level, that leadership level, even as a female, working in the financial services group. Today, I've been on this job for about 5.5 years. When I started as CEO of the business, we had an asset under management of about 100 billion. Today, we have an asset under management of over 800 billion. So 8 times,
Wow.
The capacity and value of what the institution, was managing at that time. And like you've rightly said, beyond the international award, today we are the second largest, asset manager in the country today, and coming from a position of less than 10 or far beyond 10th position in the market. And so we've grown, working with a team of professionals. I myself have grown, the business has grown, but more importantly also, the consciousness or the fact that where you are now, that's the beauty about visibility and leadership. You now have people looking up to you to say, oh, if you can do this, I believe I can also do it. So to a large extent, I would say my leadership story is really about continuous learning. Even with the CFA, after CFA, I've gone on to write a master's. I'm about completing a PhD, because I know that opportunities will keep opening up, as I keep learning, and developing myself, embracing challenges. When I was called upon to take up this job, I remember for the first 3 months, I was running away from my office because I didn't feel I was good enough for the job. I didn't think I was ready for the job. I didn't even think I was qualified, when you are asked to apply for a job and you apply and you go through the interview process, you have this feeling of I earned it, you know. But when you are called upon based on past work that you've done or perceived capacity that you have and you're given an assignment, you know, there is this imposter syndrome that makes you feel you have not earned it though, you know, you're not ready for it. So for the first 3 months, I was running away from my office, you know, until somebody, you know, reminded me that it wasn't about how I got there. It was what I intend to do. And I think that propelled me significantly to be able to ensure that I deliver on the job that I've been given. So I think I'll stop here for now.
Amazing, I think amazing stories all round from both ladies, and I think I really hope that we have some younger women across Africa that are listening to these stories because they're really inspirational, right? And it's the decisions, some of the decisions you're making today are the things that are going to position you for the leadership roles for tomorrow, right? So thank you so much for sharing that. So both of you, and I'll come to Olola next, right? Both of you as leaders, female leaders, what are some of the challenges that you experience as a woman, a female leader in Africa? Olola, what are some of the challenges you've experienced?
I think I'll go from a perspective where I've been able to move from continent to continent, and I would say that from moving from Europe to Africa, I literally realized, if I can say it this way, that I was coming back home as a woman, and that fact was more important than actually being a professional, because if I can say, women leadership is different, is perceived different. When you're a woman, you also are expected to behave differently. You engage in your professional meetings differently. You are expected to greet people in a certain way. You're expected to dress in a certain way. You're expected to speak differently than for instance, a man would do. So I would say that this has been not a challenge directly, but a learning to know that it was actually important. Behavior has been important, addressing and making sure that you are able to connect with other professionals, other leaders in position, and make sure you advance your agenda still, but by making the proper connection. So it has been very important not to also drown into some of the potential bias, because as a woman, sometimes when you are in position and you start engaging your activities, you can be perceived as maybe being, I don't want to connotate, but being just the expert or the assistant, while in fact you are the person in the room leading the agenda, right? So you have to assert yourself, make sure that you are confident with your knowledge, but also make sure that your voice is recognized as the one that is actually continuing to be the one as a focal point for the discussion and the engagement. So there's a lot of work in preparation you have to do. Make sure that you know your case, and yes, and be able to overcome those kind of barriers, and bridge those alleviate those biases that you can face at beginning. The other challenge that I would say that I went through was mainly, in terms of growing my expertise. I think it's been very important for me to still be connected with expert knowledge. So growing my network in order to share or get support, get ideas, connect with other women professionals also in the sector has been very helpful for me. Getting to acquire new tools, making sure that I also through the networks be able to get additional knowledge to perform, right? And so, I mean, the challenges of at the beginning not having a network or being connected has been something that I had to overcome, by just bridging and reaching out to other professionals naturally. Yes, and I would say finally, it's been also very important for me to try to identify role models. It's not so easy when you I can if I just take my experience back in Africa. We have your baggage in Europe or in North America, and thinking, you have a way of working, coming back home, expecting to work in a certain approach, looking for additional leadership or senior women leadership in position, and you find really a few. So it's not necessarily easy to kind of get that perspective of being able to connect with senior women leadership. So I think that for me has been important, and I always try to when I was able to join conferences, meetings, to connect with those women in position, and connect with them potentially as mentors, to learn and grow, and just making sure that I develop the relationship to that can enable the two-way learning, right? As a mentor and as a mentee, and progress this way. So it's been very those elements have been, I would say, challenges, but also ways I try to overcome those challenges in order to continue grow. For me, growing is a driver. Learning and growing is a driver, and I've always tried to, if I'm stuck, I try to connect, find a solution, and this is what I've been doing in order to progress.
Amazing. I think your response underscores so many things that we found in the other sort of top 100 career women webinars that we've done. First of all, is around the social constructs that sometimes keep women bound in certain types of expectations that can, interfere with their leadership style. And it's really important that women, begin to own their personalities and lead authentically. So thank you for sharing around that. Also, the need for representation. We need more female leaders, especially as we're growing that corporate landscape across Africa. It's very important that we have representation of female leaders so that the younger women can see other people that look like them and can also build those networks. Also, thank you for underscoring the importance of building a network and continuous learning, like Odiri said. Odiri, I want to come to you now and speak to what are some of the challenges that you have experienced as a female leader in Africa, and how have you surmounted them? Well, I think you're muted.
All right. So thank you for that question. I will just build on one of the challenges that I highlighted when I was talking about my story, which is around self-confidence and self-doubt. And I speak of that because I think to a large extent, this resonates with a lot of women, particularly when you're occupying a position, a senior level position at a very young age. There is that self-doubt, lack of self-confidence, that you don't have enough experience to handle that role. You don't have enough experience or track record, to deliver on that assignment. And I think that it's also important to also say this, that the truth is you don't completely eradicate you don't get into a zone where you're completely free of self-doubt. Even 5 years down the line, I still find myself caught up in that. I think the difference now is that you're more conscious. You're more conscious of this. You also have a track record that you can remind yourself, oh, at least I've been able to do this. So I have a track record, so you can't tell me that. So for me, over time, I've had to evolve by, reminding myself of, no matter how small those achievements are, no matter how little or, insignificant they may be, from time to time, I tend to remind myself, okay, you've been able to do this. It means that you can do that. And even till now, that consciousness of when I feel that, something is holding me back is, sometimes you are procrastinating on something and You think it's just I don't have time to do it, but underneath that is that fear, that self-doubt, that is actually holding you back. So I've gotten to a point where I'm able to recognize when fear or self-doubt is holding me back, as against I don't have the time, or things like that. So self-doubt is one of the biggest challenges that I faced, and over time, I've been able to improve and work on myself, and I'm still doing that. The second thing is taking ownership. Taking ownership, particularly in leadership position, we need to take ownership. And, sometimes, particularly when you are the female leader and you're working with male subordinates, there is this unconsciousness. I don't know if it's a female thing, if it's a woman thing, that you find yourself allowing them to take ownership for something that you are supposed to take ownership for because they report to you. So it's a subconscious thing, but I think it's something that, I've also seen over time, that's not willing to take ownership, particularly for major transaction or something that is big, that unwillingness to take ownership or that holding back to take ownership is also a major challenge. And it's something that, at the initial stage, I noticed, and I noticed that also because a lot of people kept saying, take ownership, subtly, take ownership. And then I realized, oh, is it that I'm not taking ownership? Well, I feel I'm taking ownership now. So I didn't realize what it was, and then, it's something that we also need to address. And it's something, it's subconscious. I think you're taking ownership, or you might call it, I'm delegating. We hide under the fact that, oh, I'm delegating, but you are avoiding the need to take ownership. So that was also a challenge that I faced as a female.
Can I come in there and just inquire, because I think that's an interesting observation. What does taking ownership look like?
Okay, so let's assume you are given a task to do, or whether as a leader directly, or your business is assigned a mandate to do. Now, because of the magnitude of the work that has been assigned to you, you might, there subtly you might feel, oh, are you sure I can handle this? So I don't fail on it. You have a number two or a male subordinate, and you delegate, in quotes, to that person. You allow the person to run it as if he's the major anchor of that project. But no, you are the one. But when you know that this is not delegation, is when you are overseeing and taking full responsibility for smaller projects. Whereas the big one that should give you visibility, you're pushing into somebody to handle, because you're probably afraid that you might fail in it. So in case you fail, you say he's the one that did it. So in this case, you know that it is not taking ownership when you are delegating to a male subordinate. So it's not another female, you're delegating to a male subordinate who, that's unconsciousness, to say he's the one, I'm delegating to him. But you are taking full responsibility and ownership for smaller projects, ones that will not give you the visibility that you need. So that's the difference. I don't know if you understand.
I completely understand. That's a great.
That's the major. So that lack of ownership, unconsciously, we call it delegating, but in actual fact, it's really not delegating. And then another one I would like to talk about is not willing to promote your achievements. For us as women, we shy away from self-promotion. We've done something, we've delivered on a big task, we've delivered on something that can give us credibility and visibility, and we are shy to state it. If you realize what I did when I was speaking about my story, before, if you know me before, Glory, that's
I know. I had a mental note. Yes, I had a mental note. Yeah.
I will not have said it, but over the years, I have learned. And I have learned also because I have seen other people who have done, I won't say less, but less valuable things than me, in the organization. And when they come to meetings, that's the only thing they're talking about. Every word they portray it with. And I realized that you who have done this, you're not saying it. Nobody knows, And then they will not come to you and say, you're not doing anything, you're not doing anything, you're not doing anything. I'm not doing anything. Ha. So I had to now rewire. I had to rewire myself to say, this is something you've done, and it's not that you are bragging. You say it with pride. After all,
I
it's
love
a
it.
fact. you know,
It
but you're
is.
not you're not bragging. You say it's a fact. You say it with pride that, oh, this is what we've done. I started with using we, we did, so that I could get into that, mindset of taking ownership for what we've done, and then over time I said, oh, as a CEO, this is what we've been able to do. So gradually, that fear or
Mm,
that, unconscious these buyers that, oh, you are bragging, you're not humble, started say reducing. That voice said reducing. And even when people say you are just bragging, I say, we are bragging because we earned it, unconsciously, and in a joking way, just joking about it. But the truth is that I have seen a lot of women, even the ones I work with, and I work with males too. And you see the men are telling you all the things they've done. They're not half of what the women have done, and the women are not saying anything. So that unwillingness to self-promote is also a major challenge, that I faced, and I've over time, worked around it. And then the last I will speak to, Olola spoke about networking, which is very key. You know, building relationship, but more importantly, also sweating that relationship.
mm,
For us as women, when we build relationship, we don't see it as a business relationship, a relationship that we can draw on for business. They are more social, but the need for us to be able to draw and sweat those relationships for business purpose is
mm.
something that I noticed that, I was not doing. I had a list of everybody I could knock on the door for, this, but I was not doing it. I say, I don't want them to think I'm begging them. That's what I tell
Mm,
myself. I don't want them to think
mm,
I'm begging them. Come on, but other people are calling their friends, calling their this thing. So it was something I had to learn in a different way, because as a CEO now, you're also a business development person. You're supposed to bring business, you're supposed to bring mandates, and if you know these people, you knock on the door, you ask for the favor, you ask for the opportunity. It's not just a social call, it's also a business call. So also as women, we need to understand that relationships are not just for social engagement, they're also, you know, business relationship, and we should be able to draw on them, for business purpose. Thank you.
I love that. I love that. That I think really that underscores some of the challenge. I think while Olola spoke to sort of some of the external challenges, you spoke to some of the internal challenges women have. And one of those challenges around self promotion, ownership, is really why 95 Chick exists. Really to be that vehicle that not only showcases women but also promotes them and teaches them how to self promote. So thank you for sharing that. Olola, I'm going to come back to you and really talk about networks now, because that's something that you mentioned in your story. And even when you're talking about challenges, how can African female executives build influential and powerful networks?
Thank you. I think, in my opinion, it starts by building a network of expertise first, joining a
Hmm.
network of expertise, also joining a network of trust, and all in the mind of helping each other's through sorority. What I would say is sorority. So thinking leadership and women leaders as sisterhood, and building on each other's, right, supporting each other's when we hear opportunities for growth, opportunities for learning, share opportunities for learning, share opportunities if we are in a network of, I don't know, consultancy, or I've been in the past in some consultancy. So sharing opportunities for missions there, and making sure that you connect with the people that you want to connect to. We often say that we are usually 5 times separated from the person we really intend to reach. So by being in a network, you can reduce that layers of 5 people, 5 people that you're away from, right, and reaching to your target. So joining networks of expertise, making sure that you are building on this trust relationship. I think it's very important. And when you are, I think, in position where you can, I think mentoring and bringing young professionals or young learners into those network of knowledge or into those areas of growth is very important. Giving back. I'm a firm believer in giving back to the community. That's why I'm also part of some of the professional acts. I think we lost Gloria. So just maybe continuing together. Uh, so being part of the network, I think it's important to help each others and continuing the mentorship. And yes, so it's a way of first looking at the local level into the expertise, and then opening wider to other person. Then there is also the network, the professional network. You can have connection through conferences, through learning experience, but also making sure that you are supported by champions. We often think of network as leaning together with women together, but also having male champions and sponsored is, for me, I think, is something that is crucial. And I've been, I would say, fortunate to have along my careers supportive managers and executive team that believed in pushing my learning and growing. So it's also something that our young sister can consider and definitely work towards in order to grow networks and connect further with people.
All right, she's not yet in. But I like what you said about sisterhood, and I recall when I became a CEO, because I was coming from a finance background, majority of the time, in finance, you're more back office, you're more crunching numbers. So business development wasn't my thing, building networks, meeting people wasn't really my thing, and I recall somebody, recommending Gaia. Gaia is a group of women, senior level position, and joined, I joined that group. So welcome back, Glory.
Thank you. Unfortunately, my internet threw me out, but I'm back. I'm back. So,
Yeah,
Aduri, I heard you mention Gaia. I think you were talking about networking.
yeah. So I was just when she finished, I just to not let us rest. So I made reference to one thing she said, which is sisterhood. And I
Mm,
said I remember because I was coming from a finance background. I had limited contact. Limited, networking opportunity. So I remember you were the one who even talked about Gaia, and I said, okay, let me join. That was in 2019. And I joined
wow.
Gaia, and it helped open me up really to start meeting people, attend meetings and things like that. So when she talked about sisterhood, I just
Mm,
remembered, what I benefited that from that also.
Mhm.
yes,
Yes.
yes. Olola, I think something that you said that really resonated with me was the different types of networks. So you said networks of expertise, starting out with networks of expertise, networks of trust, and then networks of sisterhood. I think looking at
Yeah.
networks that way is such a great way of evaluating our relationships as women. I've never heard somebody talk about networks that way, but I think it's a great way to be able to say, oh, what are the networks of my expertise? What are the networks of my trust? What are the sisterhood networks I have? Do you have any other bands of networks that you can share with us?
Well, I mean,
Talking
as
about professional I think he talked about professional network.
yes, well,
Yes.
I mean, one, if I can share one of those, I'm definitely in some of the, as expert in the energy sector, I've joined some networks in that area. first of all, it was definitely with focusing on renewable energy, for instance. And so I've been able to develop expertise on renewable energy, and then be more confident when I had to deliver my mission. Then, because all through my career I've been around program management, and I got certified in project and program management since 2010. So that expert network from the Project Management Institute has helped me connect with other people from all around the world, in Europe, in Africa, and be able to confront some of the knowledge, that I needed to grow for delivering some assignments. And then I think it was back in 2017, I was introduced to what is called Africa Leadership Network. I think we have was founded by two bright men, and so that network for me has been since something tremendous, because I've been able to connect with women in leadership that I would never have thought I could connect with. Some people through in position in presidency in other countries, in DC, in Nigeria, in Kenya, in other countries. So I was able to more rely on what it is to be part of and have leadership discussions. What it is and how it is we can share our issues, our ambition, and so that additional network has been very helpful for me. If I can share, and then yes. So, and in my current position, I think in our organization, I'm lucky, and we're lucky to have executive management that is considering diversity as the heart of our engagement. And so within our current organization at Global Green Growth Institute, we are able to lean in with the other women leaders. And we also, in terms of expertise, we have what we call community of practice. So, I mean, in some organization, it can be also, you can have some work environment that encourage you to connect with other professionals. So, for instance, in our community of practice, we have different community of practice related to climate change discussions, finance discussions, and all the other engagement. And yes, definitely the circle of discussions for particular well-being topics or issues related to how women can engage further, balancing their professional and career and personal life. So yeah, so I think those are type of trusted networks that you can join, and yeah, depends on the position, but there are opportunities, and I think in Africa. At West Africa level, at Africa Union level, you also have a specific leadership network that are organized. And yes, I'm trying to look at the top of my head the names, but I know there's one large for Africa women in leadership that is spearheaded by the Africa Union, for instance. That is looking to position different women in and make sure that they're engaging further. So I think those networks are helping, but it's also important to, as Odiri was saying, to showcase. And I like what you said by bridging the self-doubt and going further. I hope one day I will be more confident and as confident as Odiri to shine and showcase my work and continue using social network and also additional point to continue, not to brag, but actually to showcase the little achievements, because it's the celebration of the little achievements that one by one also help enabled you to bring more confidence and continue grow. So
Fantastic. Thank you for sharing that, Olola. Really a great mapping out exercise of the different types of networks available regionally. Very interesting. I'm sure, Olola, that there is nothing little about your achievements. I'm sure that
So
they are very grand and well and should be spoken of repeatedly because you're doing excellent work. So I'll just chip that in there. My so we've talked a lot now about our stories, our internal challenges, and we've had Shirley. Shirley has joined us. Shirley, if you can, please put on your
Hi.
camera.
Okay, I thought it was on. Can you hear
No,
me?
yes, I can hear you.
I
Can
thought the
you hear
camera
me?
was on. Yes, because I've
No, it's
allowed
not
the
on at the moment. We can
camera.
hear you, but we can't see you.
Oh, okay, I'll navigate it.
Okay, so once it comes on, I'll come and I'll introduce you.
Okay.
Odiri, please can this is a question we've asked at every session, and it's the question around the gender pay gap. Do you believe that there's a gender pay gap in Africa? And if yes, why? If no, why?
there is a gender pay gap everywhere.
Okay.
That's the truth. There is a gender pay gap everywhere, and whether it is intentional or institutional, there is a
Mm,
pay gap and it exists. You know, um, there is a structural part to a gender pay gap. There is also the internal part, our own part as women to the gender pay gap. So there are two parts to the gender pay gap. There is the
mm,
structural part, that is the part that has been instituted in the organization or in an establishment or in a company.
mm,
And then there is the part that we create as women. So let me talk on the part that we create as women. You know, sometimes our inability to negotiate, for what we deserve, can create that gender pay gap. And we all know, and I'll give an example of myself. When I was appointed as group CFO, I was 5 levels below, the former person that was there. But when they asked me to take up that role, nothing extra was given to me. And I was excited. I was more happy that they recognized that I can do the job than the fact that, they were not paying me for the job. But I remember that when my boss was on that seat, he was always complaining they're not paying him enough. This is someone that
wow.
he was perpetually always complaining he was not paid enough. And here was me, so grateful that I was given the job that I didn't think that it was important to even discuss the compensation. So
Wow.
that is the internal part, our inability or reluctance to negotiate, not just negotiate, but demand,
Mm,
what we are doing based on the value that we are bringing to that role and based on what that particular role demands. Because there are certain organizations that there is a fixed amount for that role. Whoever comes into the role, whether male or female, you get that package. But you still see that even when those policies are there, when it's a woman, there is always a shifting of and if you don't demand for it, you just let it go. The day you wake up, then I say, oh, it's true. They now, but if you let it go, people will just let it go because you have accepted. So that's
mm,
the internal part. Then there is the structural part, which is where organizations don't have, a fixed compensation for a particularly for senior level roles. If you bring in, and particularly when you are hiring from internally, you see that mostly when you are hiring from internally and you are hiring a woman to that particular role, you just give her whatever you think that she wants. But for organizations to always have that fixed amount for a certain role, particularly senior level roles, and irrespective male or
mm.
female, as long as they've been hired into that role, it is assumed that they have the capacity, the competence to deliver on what that role entails, and you give it to them. So when companies don't adhere to those policies, those are structural issues within those companies. But there is also the internal part that we create as women when we don't negotiate, for something that is due. We always say, let's do the work first. When we do the work, when they see my value, when we see that they will now, sometimes it may not necessarily work. And so we compound that pay gap. But I would say if I were to rate both reasons or both structures, I would say if we can address the structural gap, that structural institutional, gap, we can to a large extent close, the gap to a large extent, but more importantly also for us as we begin to, build that self-confidence to demand for what we are paid. Anybody that wants to hire me today, I already know my value. Unlike before, 6 years ago, I did not know. So it's different. And that's the truth. So I will demand for it now because I know my value. And so for women, once we know our value, that confidence to demand for it, if we demand for it, we will over time close this pay gap. So those two causes are what is driving the pay gap, but they exist in Africa and across the world. If it can exist in the US and in the UK and in other developed markets, what is Africa? It is here.
Amazing, Odiri. I thank you for giving that personal example. I think it's just so jarring to see how the person that was there before you was saying, "I'm not being paid enough," and you were not even yet being paid what he was being paid, but you were working, doing the work. Thank you for sharing that personal perspective. So, Shirley, you're so welcome.
Thank
Excited
you.
to have you
Thank
here.
you. Thank you. Hi,
You
everyone.
you
Sorry
have
to join
joined.
late.
That's fine. You have joined in the meaty parts of the conversation. In the meaty
That's
part of
good.
the conversation. So let me introduce Shirley. Today we have with us Shirley Tony Coombe. She's the corporate communications manager for Vivo Energy Ghana. She's a seasoned communications professional with over a decade of experience in corporate communications and journalism. She's also contributed to awards such as the Petroleum Company of the Year, Most Respected and Trusted Brand, and she's the recipient of the prestigious Duke of Edinburgh Award. She has in the last 8 years, she has risen to senior communications manager, managing communications events, community relations, earning multiple awards as well, including Spot the Employee Recognition Award. You are super welcome. And
Thank
Shirley, I'm
you.
gonna put you right in the mix and
Sure.
ask you, do you think that there's a gender pay gap in Africa?
Personally, I don't know, but I don't think so. Probably because of the companies I've
Okay.
worked with in the past and what I know about, especially multinationals.
Okay.
But I'm not doubting they don't exist. I agree that in some instances they may exist, but just that personally I've not
It's not
encountered
been a
that.
personal
And
experience.
no, I've not got personal experience because I think that each company have their own remuneration and performance rewards, and every job, irrespective of the gender, whether you're male, you're female, have been evaluated, and that they don't look at whether you are this or you are Shirley or you are the male version of Shirley. So seriously, I don't believe they exist, and that they have structured rewards or remuneration for each role. So it starts with a competency based interview approach, whereby organizations, I mean, I think that for each role that they have, I don't think you've gone for an interview even for the same role and they'll ask me different set of questions because I'm a female and different set of questions because this person is a male, especially for, let's use a role like an engineering role. I don't think they'll ask female specific engineering questions and ask a male. So every job has been evaluated, and I think that organizations have a performance strategy for each of the roles, which is well known because usually they will cascade to everyone in terms of what is required of the job, what the role entails, and everything. So for me, like Adui said, I've had a personal experience where I joined a company and after my probation period, because I was coming from a certain company and I was monitoring in terms of the currency depreciation and all that, and how the dollar was performing against our currency. So joining that company, I was like, after 3 months when I was about to be confirmed, I realized I had lost so much in terms of
Mm,
what I was expecting or what they offered to me when I was joining. I went straight to my boss and said, "Can we have a conversation?" I've realized if I pick my payslip from my former employers and I pick what I'm taking now, I don't think I'm being rewarded for what I demand. And lo and behold, I got some huge percentage increase based
mm,
on the current indices within the country. So I think that even instances where there's a pay gap, like you are saying, as women, we should value the role or we should value what we bring on
mm,
board. We shouldn't look down on ourselves like, hey, like she said, let me do the job. Someone may see it. No, someone may see it, but may keep quiet. So there are times you have to speak up. And at one time I was like, wow, so if I had not really approached my boss, I would have lost big time. And I'll be like, either I'll be doing the job and not happy because I'm not being rewarded adequately for my performance and all that. So I think that pay rise may exist, and even and where they exist, I expect our women to speak up, have a conversation with your boss, and see what they can do both sides. Yeah.
Amazing. Amazing, Shirley. So great to have you join and offer that perspective. And it's great. It also echoes what Odiri was saying earlier, and has even been saying from the start of this conversation around the need for women to be self advocates.
Yeah.
So, like you said, if you didn't have that conversation with your boss,
Yeah.
you would have lost out, and you would have been feeling unrewarded for a role that you were putting in your best. Olola, I don't want to leave you out. So, what do you think? Do you think there is a pay gap or there is not a pay gap?
So I think
That's
I
that was
cannot
a
be in the middle. I have to side on one or the other. But I would probably take it from another angle and say, not necessarily in terms of salary, but when you look at investment, for instance, there is a gap in terms of investment in
Yes.
entrepreneurship for women ventures versus men ventures. So for women that are in the private sector working in different entrepreneurial activities, you definitely see a gap in terms of revenue capacity and capability to reach out to additional type of funding, right? And this in the professional arena for entrepreneurship and investment is something that really needs to be enhanced further for women in entrepreneurial activities to be seen, to be more supported, maybe to join specific programs that enable them to be empowered, receive training, incubation, and then support through accelerations. And yeah, so and also I think it's there's definitely so that gap in financing to bridge, and government also investment sector actors need to structure programs and in a way that they can favor this type of investment towards women-led ventures or women-led entrepreneurial activities by assessing different criteria to lower risk in investment, and also perhaps having specific favor programs for these women. And yeah, so this is a definite gap that still exists in our sector. So looking now at the salary scale, if you are an employee, I think I have to side also with Shirley. It depends on the organization. Each organization have their range of payment depending on grades. In our organization, we have different grades that are very identified against some of the terms of reference you have to deliver. And within the term of reference, you fit within a range. And that range is the same whether you are a man or a woman. And so we also are evaluated against performance. So if you meet the performance, then you are able to increase in terms of your pay scale, right? So depending on the organization, you can have this type of governance or setup for payment. But in our case, yes, there is a range. There is also objectives. Meeting those objectives depends on your achievement and how you deliver your objective in order to increase your salary. And yes, in those type of situation, it is important to voice out your achievement, be vocal, even if they're minor achievements. I think I echo also Diri when she was saying that we sometimes hear many little achievements from other people, and it's true sometimes. And you as a woman, you just stay shy for your big achievement because maybe of some self doubt or anything. So I would encourage our sisters to continue being vocal of even little achievement, and ask. Without asking, you cannot have a response, right? So dare to ask, dare to know your value and ask for what you're worth. And if you made a big achievement, then claim it, and continue claiming it until you succeed.
Love it. Continue claiming it until you succeed. One of the things that I think, an unspoken word that is running through thread, that is running through your three responses, is the power of negotiation,
Yeah.
and how women need to be able to learn that. Because even in roles that have gradients and performance management and all of that, it's still being applied by humans, right? So there is room for, it's not as objective as
You'll be
as we.
surprised
Sorry.
if you look through those ranges, and if you do a sample and look through the ranges, you find that the men are more at the top of those ranges than the women. So that's a pay gap. And
Yes.
and yeah, to a large extent, and really it's for companies to have a structure. Once they have a structure, you can minimize that because it's easier. The burden of negotiation is taken away from the woman once there is a structure. Because if you leave it open to negotiation, the men will always negotiate more than their worth. The women will always tend to negotiate less than their worth. But when there's a structure, you know that okay, it's not based on our negotiation; it's based on our capacity and competence. So it's easier that way, and I think that's what will help to actually reduce, in quotes, whatever pay gap that seems to exist.
Fantastic, fantastic. Thank you for adding that. I think that perspective was really needed. So, ladies, we are fast gone with time, but I want to just ask for additional 10 minutes, and I have two more questions. Right. My first question is around, what should organizations be doing to attract and retain top female talent? So, what should organizations be doing to? And surely I'll come to you first. What do
Okay.
you think? Two things that you think organizations should do to attract
I
and retain female talent.
I think with the female agenda, organizations must be very deliberate about it.
Yeah.
They need to be deliberate about the agenda to promote female or to attract female talent because of what they bring to the table. I mean, when you have a female voice in the organization, the C-suite, it's very important. So one, it starts by they setting a female diversity target and deliberately fighting to meet those targets. In my organization, for instance, where we've realized there is a gap because it's an energy sector and we have um, some gap in terms of women in STEM and in some roles. Now, my CEO has called it out, and it's actually on our scorecard. That is our performance scorecard, where the country is supposed to meet a certain target in terms of recruitment, attracting a certain number of females into the organization. So, as I speak, it's a headache of my HR manager that anybody who leaves the company, I'm going to bring in a woman. So I mean, that target, because we have to meet that target, not because we want to get bonus at the end of the month, but we've realized the important role women play in terms of the female voice they bring to the table, in terms of decision making, the need for a female to be in the C-suite. And also, once you create, if you're able to create a solid EVP, employer value proposition, you're able to that speak to women, you're able to attract the females into your organization, into top roles. So I know some organization who have I mean, places like nursery for their kids, nursing mothers, some of them also have, in terms of policies, instead of the usual 3 months maternity leave, they have 6 months maternity leave with pay. They provide the opportunity for women to grow. They have, so we have something called the WAVE, that is Women in Vivo Energy. It's a leadership program that is designed for women within the organization. So day in, day out, they're organizing training sessions for us, for the female population within the company to aspire to leadership role, to build our competence, to build our confidence, so that when we approach with certain roles that we think, no, hey, I can't do this. I mean, you have that courage, you have that confidence to take up that role. So I think that two things we should be deliberate about it, have a female diversity target and try to meet it, and have a solid EVP that speaks to women.
Yeah.
Amazing. I love that. Building that solid EVP. And I know that there are a few organizations that are doing that and are leading by example. I was at a conference a while ago, and this lady, I can't remember the name of the company now, but it was an FMCG company based here in Nigeria, but it's a multinational. And she
I'm
was
sure that'll be
saying how
Nestle.
maybe I can't remember, or maybe I'm trying not to mention the company's name.
Okay, sorry.
No, it's fine. So she was saying how the company actually paid for. She had just given birth and was going asked to go on assignment. And when you just give birth, I think it was either her second or something, and it's just really not the best time, as it were. But the company paid for a nanny to follow her on this travel. I remember
So
she said it at a conference,
yeah,
and I thought
Gloria,
it was
that
very
reminds me. Yeah, that reminds me. Joining my current company, and this is something I speak really with so much pride. I went for the interview when I was heavily pregnant. In fact, I was due within to deliver within that week. So I went to the
interesting.
interview with a big belly, and I was like, initially, I was like, hey, who is going to employ such a person? And because they needed a person to start the role there and then, but something told me that hey, go in there. They know your condition. Just go and make your mark and see what happens. I went in there, lo and behold, I got the job. The other people came for the interview, I got the job. And I was given 3 months to take care of my baby before joining. And I think that that was one of the ways that the company shows that they really care about the women agenda. And really, I was so happy entering such a company. Yeah.
Amazing, amazing. Shirley, thanks for that example. Thanks for that example. Olola, what about you? What are your thoughts? Two things that organizations need to do to attract top female talent, attract and retain top female talent in
Yeah.
Africa.
Yes, I think. I mean, in order to attract talent, you need to be competitive. So I think offering competitive package compensation is definitely important, because then you're able to make sure that the person you have is performing, is interested, motivated, and also has the means to continue addressing the challenge you want them to address, right? So it can be having specific monetary packages, but also benefits that enables to arrange for additional holidays or flexible work arrangement. In our organization, we have now what is called in duty work or out of duty work. So we can, for instance, work for almost 2 months out of our own normal office for any specific reason, right? So that kind of flexibility enables sometimes women to maybe balance their work life decisions. So yeah, so having, I think, competitive packages for me very important, and also making sure that there's always growth opportunity, so learning opportunity, growth, and challenges. So it's important to still maintain that motivation to go through challenges and experience uncomfortable situation, so that you are able to hone new skills, right? By being able to perform in maybe in a new role that you don't necessarily feel you have all the skills, but still your management trusts you and just in a way kind of throw you in the water, but confront you with that new challenge. And this is very, I think it's important in order to retain female talent. In our organization, what we also do, because we also in our mandate work to support implement actions that have a gender marker. So all the program and all the project, for instance, that I structure, uh, I'm bound to have like a 50% equity angle. So all the programs that I deliver, being for I don't know, provide training or anything, or deliver capacity building, I have to make sure that there is a 50% identification of beneficiaries that are targeted as women. This is something that we have in terms of objective in our organization for the work we deliver. And I think it's something that can be encouraged, having maybe such kind of rules and regulation to force, by having those governance rules, you encourage, you put the barrier forward, right? And make sure that there is equity in all the engagement that the company does. So maybe having that additional management decision to have 50% representation of men and women. It's something that takes decision, right? And for us, it's something that we have to follow in our mandate when we deliver our work. So
Amazing, amazing. Thank you for sharing that example. I think all having so what you are this the model you're sharing is one that is internal, one that is internal, but also leadership based, right? So people, everybody in within that leadership scenario is also looking out to create equity and equitable opportunities within the organization. So that's very interesting. Thank you for sharing that, Olola. Odiri, I'll come to you last on this question.
All right, so I will start with echoing what Shirley and Olola has said. Being intentional, I think that's very critical. Organizations have to be intentional, because sometimes even when you put out, those opportunities out, most women will still not apply, even when they are overly qualified for it. So beyond just putting out those opportunities, is working with female focused organizations to be able to attract such talent. You have to be very, very intentional. That's in the hiring process. Now, in the retention, Shirley talked about creating a balanced work environment. I've been in UCAP for 16 years. And trust me, if the environment was not balanced enough in terms of work and family, I probably would not have stayed this long. So a lot of women are willing to stay, as long as the organization helps them both ways in growing professionally and also growing, personally. So once an organization has put in place policies that can help, women to balance that out, you find that they're able to thrive on both end, and then they will stay longer. So you're able to retain them. And then the third thing I will talk about is leadership training. And I always say this: the way you train a woman for leadership position is completely different from the way you train a man for leadership position. And I stand to be corrected, but this is my own personal experience. So you can't have the same leadership training program for both male and female. It doesn't work. Today we've talked about the issue of self-doubt, self-confidence, self-promotion. These are things that don't bother men at all. And these are things that have to be in your training program for women. Because if you are hiring a woman or you are grooming her to take a leadership position, and she doesn't know how to be confident in herself, she gets to that position, it will still be the same demons or battles that she'll be facing. She's not able to project her achievements in meetings where you have high level board members, and somebody's even taking the glory of what should be, and she's not able to speak up. So I strongly believe that the leadership training there should be a dedicated leadership training program for women, particularly when you're grooming them internally, to take over leadership opportunities within an organization. Olola talked about having a proper career growth opportunities for women, and I think that's also very critical. When I started my career, I started as, I was basically an associate or an analyst. So I grew literally. I spent 2 years before I joined the institution. 2 years barely just puts you at entry level at best. And I've grown over time, and I've stayed over time, largely because, there were career opportunities that I was, sponsored for, projected for, encouraged to take on. So for women to be able to stay, particularly women who are ambitious, who are driven, who want to succeed in their career. And I use the word ambitious with a sense of pride. women who are ambitious and driven and want to thrive in their career, they already have a focus. Once you have the right career growth opportunities for them, you will definitely retain them, because you've invested in them over time. So why allow them to go somewhere else? Today we have remote working, and I think that this era of remote working, helps a lot of women. Because the day you cannot come into work because of family issues, kids, children, and things like that, you can still work. Sometimes I'm working in the car. I have to go and pick my kids maybe in the middle of a particular day, and I'm still working in the car while they are there. Unlike before where that structure wasn't, pronounced. COVID, a lot of companies now created that opportunity for people to work remotely. So that structure, has evolved over time. So that remote working has helped a lot of women to still be able to succeed professionally and also personally. And organizations should reward loyalty. Reward loyalty. A lot of the time it's like organizations are penalizing women for staying long there. And that's the truth. Because you see the men, 2-3 years, they're out looking for money and they're jumping for work. You are loyal and you stay. You're doing your job. They don't feel she doesn't have anywhere to go. That's why she's still there. No. So by the time you train them, you give them opportunity, you'll be surprised how much, they will blossom and how much they will contribute to the organization. So reward loyalty, particularly for women. So
Amazing. I think we could go on this. There are so many things. And what I love about your responses is they are all practical and they are all things that you as women are experiencing in your own individual organizations and that have, attracted you and retained you in those organizations. So thank you for giving those real life practical experience. My final question is, and I just ask each person to spend 30 seconds on this particular question. And it's really about the young lady who is watching this, who is just starting out her career or in the middle of it or coming towards the end. What is your advice for women, career women across Africa? And I know that's a loaded question, and I'm only giving you 30 seconds each to respond. Odiri, I see you are deep in thought, so I'll come to you first. What is your advice? What is your advice for career women? And you can pick one, whether it's someone who's starting in the middle or coming to the end of her career. What is your advice?
Well, the first thing, I'll say two things. The first thing, don't be in a hurry to sit at the table. And I always like to say that because sometimes we put pressure on ourselves that we need to succeed. You take your time and grow with the process. Every one of us, we can tell our story, but it was not a story of starting our career day one. It's a story that evolved over time. So don't be in a hurry to sit at the table, go with the process. And then the second one is be yourself. Be yourself, be authentic, just be yourself. So that's where
I love that. Don't be at a hurry to sit at the table and be yourself. Love that. Olola.
Okay, so I think many, if I can take a few years back, maybe I will do things differently. But I would say as advice, it's okay. I believe it's okay to be ambitious. It's okay to dream big, be bold, and also want everything, want a dream job and a family. So it's okay and it's feasible. In some organization, it's feasible. So if you're not in the right setup, maybe change your setup with the organization that enables you to be your full self, right? And most likely, it's also really okay to doubt, to make mistake. We often tend to, as women, to be more, have more complex about making mistakes, right? While men or other people can just make mistakes and go further. So I would say, yeah, just make mistakes, learn from them, and always try to move forward. Yeah.
Love that. Love that. Love that. Thank you so much, Olola. Shirley, 30 seconds.
Yes, okay. So I would say that as a professional, you need to be purposeful about your growth. In this world, nothing works by chance. You need to be deliberate about what you want to achieve as a woman, where you want to be in terms of leadership. And the next one, I'll say that you need to grow with speed. How do you grow with speed? Making sure that you are on top of your industry, you know what's going around you, and seeking continuous professional development. Don't settle for anything. Don't think you know it all. I've been in this profession getting to almost like 20 years. I tell you, each year there's a course I take, a major course I take, not a certificate courses, but a major course in my industry that I take every year. So for my young people, please know what you want, push your agenda, because you are the only one who can do that. Own your growth, okay? And make sure that you are seeking continuous professional development so that you can stay relevant within your organization and within your industry. Thank you.
Amazing, amazing. So I'm sure everybody that is listening can see why these are part of our top 100 career women in Africa. These women are ambitious, they are powerful, they are experienced, and very knowledgeable. And we are so glad that they are leading the charge in corporate Africa. So thank you so much to Olola. Thank you to Odiri. Thank you to Shirley. Thank you also to United Capital for being our partner on this series. We are super excited for you about your support and for you amazing women that have joined the conversation. I'll say good night because time has far gone. But thank you so much for contributing to this conversation.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Thank
Thank
you.
you for the invitation.
Thank you,
Bye
Shirley.
bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See
Nice
you.
to see
Bye
you.
bye.
Bye.
Nice to see you.